The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 88. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Get your free audiobook by visiting thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Well, hello friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan. And today's guest, I have someone, from my city of Toronto. She is a phenomenal person. She is an educator and an artist whose passion is to talk about social justice in the world with, the talents that she has. And, I just can't wait to hear her story. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to the real Sun. Hey, Sun, how are you doing today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself with our listeners.
Sure. Hi, Sheena. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Yes, so my name is The Real Sun. That's the name I go by under my artist and educator hat. And I am from a community called Jane and Finch in Toronto. I'm originally born in Korea. And I'm a poet, I'm a singer, songwriter, and educator in various different forms. And a lot of the issues that I speak to give voice to the importance of social justice and being aware of issues surrounding equity and identity and redefining success in a lot of ways.
I love that. I love how you use, your talents to bring such, important topics to the world. There's so many things out there that, we don't hear often, and, it's just something nice and refreshing to have. So thanks for doing that. And what is your favorite self-confidence quote?
My favorite self-confidence quote is something that I've been meditating a lot on recently, is that you are the creator of your own reality. And I think that's a really empowering quote because it allows us to take power back, especially for a lot of women. I think we have been placed in boxes and given certain parameters around what we can do, what we cannot do, what we can say, who we're supposed to be. And I think when we are given back the power, or when we take that power back to say, I am a powerful manifester and I am in charge of my life based on the decisions that I make, based on the beliefs that I choose to hold within myself, I think it helps us to break through a lot of the barriers that have been placed before us. And so that's kind of something that I've been meditating on a lot in terms of helping myself to progress forward in my life.
I love that quote, and it's true, right? I mean, especially as women, and I think especially as Asian women too, we're so programmed to be told what to do that we forget our own identity and we feel like we're only placed in this box, which you mentioned. And I like that because really it's up to us to take charge of our life, go take action and just do the things that we can do to make our lives better, right? Do the things that we want to do and not because we're told to do it. So, I really love that quote. And, in your own words, how would you define self-confidence?
I think self-confidence is really about knowing who you are and being able to stand in a place of that authenticity, of knowing who you are at the core. I think in order for someone to genuinely come to a place of self-confidence, you have to have a very strong sense of your own awareness, right? Awareness of yourself. And I talk about that a lot in some of my workshops and musical keynotes, which I haven't mentioned yet, but it kind of ties in, I think, because musical keynotes are presentations that I give in schools and universities and in various different conferences that a keynote address, like an assembly or a keynote address that you would see at a conference, intermix live music and poetry as a performance piece into the keynote. And when I do a lot of my musical keynote, that is very much the message that I carry through my presentation, is that we have to kind of get to a place of, what is my purpose in life? And ultimately, I think to really get to that place of self-confidence is a really long journey because many of us have grown up going through traumatic situations, and there's a piece of healing that needs to happen in order for us to see that we are worthy, that we are beautiful.
Thanks for sharing that. And it's so true. We have to be aware of ourselves. We have to learn, to just, learn to love ourselves, be our authentic selves, because that's how we can get the confidence we have to do the things that we want. So I really love what you shared. And it's pretty cool that you do these musical keynotes at various conferences and universities. I mean, it's just a unique way to bring your message out there, which is really awesome. What was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
My life before I discovered self-confidence. Well, I think for me, I grew up in a situation where nobody around looked like me. Right? I grew up in a really white community. I was the only person of color around for miles, and it was very isolating experience because of some of the prejudices that existed. And I think for me, I felt like I didn't belong anywhere.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And it's not easy when you move into a new country and you look different from everybody else. It's so crazy, especially being of Asian descent, right? I mean, when I moved to Canada too, it wasn't a walk in the park.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, now it's a lot easier, especially in Toronto now that we're so much more multicultural. But I mean, back then it wasn't like that, right? So, I mean, we do deal with things like that. And I'm glad you brought that up because, such an important topic. So, what was that moment when you realized, you can be just you. You don't have to worry about what other people thought of you. You had the courage to just do your own thing.
I don't think it was ever just one moment. I think it was an accumulation of things. I think I grew into that awareness. If I could choose, there was one moment when I turned 18 and I was the first time as an adult going back home by myself. I had my mom with me previous times and I went by myself. And by that point, I had become so ashamed of who I was, right? I didn't want anything cultural having to do with Korean culture. I would yell at my mom for packing kimchi in my lunch because, the kids would make fun of me and I refused to speak the language. And I tried to really assimilate into Canadian white culture. And I even refused to speak the language. And so when I landed in Korea, this place where I'm supposedly from, which I was constantly reminded of every single day in Canada, all of a sudden I didn't belong there either because I didn't speak the language well. I didn't understand customs because I had put things away as a method of survival of where I was. And so I was stuck in this place, and I think a lot of people of color in the Western world struggle with being part of a diaspora and being a person of color and constantly being the foreigner. And so I had a moment where I was like, oh my goodness, so I don't belong there and I don't belong here. And that really propelled me into what I was mentioning earlier about really digging into issues centered around social justice because it allowed me to articulate with a new language.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. And what's your life like now after those discoveries?
And that discovery, I feel so much more filled with joy. There is kind of a deeper sense of inner peace that I never had before. And there's a confidence and a trust in knowing that I'm on the right path, right? There's kind of a deeper sense of faith of myself, within myself, of the universe, of God, of source, of whatever it is that you choose to refer, the larger understanding, the larger of all that we are. And I really feel much more grounded in my purpose and knowing my purpose and being able to stand in the confidence of knowing, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. And so after some of these discoveries, I'm in a much more empowered place where it's a lot easier to be with peace and to be with love and to be in a place of joy and happiness.
I love how you said that it's easier. And, people don't realize that word easy. It's just the flow is a lot easier. You feel more at peace. You feel like things just have this easier flow when you do things, right? I don't know if that makes sense.
Definitely.
So I'm really happy you're able to find your true purpose, which is doing the musical keynotes and, bring topics on social justice to help this world become better, right? And Sun, for the woman who's listening to your episode, she's also on her own journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you would give to her?
The one tip that I would give is to breathe deeply and to love yourself and to take time to get to know the real you that's inside. And if you don't meditate, try sitting in a place of quiet solitude. Explore meditation and honor yourself and be courageous enough to embark on the path and finding and living in alignment with your true inner purpose. I think all of us need that space to just be. And all of us require that space sometimes to just be alone, and find that space of peace within and holding solitude. And it's a real choice, right? It takes a bit of work.
right? That may sound counterintuitive, right? So like, a lot of the teachings is about go with the flow and the path of least resistance and just kind of embracing that journey. But the decision to embark on a journey of discovering the truth of who you are sometimes requires that you overturn certain rocks that have been sitting there for a while. Right? It requires that you enter into a deeper dialogue about some of the experiences that you've been through to really get to know where you come from and why you feel the things that you do. And I would say, yeah, love yourself and get to that place of really understanding what that means, of being able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you, I'm proud of you, you're beautiful, and I trust in you, and I believe in you. And you can achieve anything that you dream, and be able to say these things from a place of authenticity, of genuine love for yourself. I think that is the ultimate goal that we can have for ourselves on this journey of trying to find self-confidence and of healing and coming to a place of self-discovery.
Awesome. And, I love those tips. The first thing for sure is to love yourself. And, there's nothing wrong with taking time on your own. A lot of people think, something's wrong with that. And when really, there isn't. Like, everyone needs time to themselves to reflect, to refocus, recharge themselves so they can become a better person, or the person that they want to be. And, anything worthwhile does take work.
For sure. I think sometimes we want other people to fill our holes. Right? You feel incomplete in some way, and you want other people to fill that gap, and we often try to find that in romantic relationships or relationships with our friends or other people. And the truth is that hole will always be there until you figure out how to fill it yourself. We have to be able to get to that place where we can be whole on our own.
Yeah, totally. And I totally agree with you. So, thanks for sharing that. And Sun, if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and your causes and the work that you do, is there any websites that we can link with, or any social media profiles?
Yeah, my website is therealsun.com, and my Twitter and Instagram is Sun, the Real Sun, SUNTHEREALSUN. Yeah, and you can find me there. And if anybody is interested in having me come to one of your events or your schools to speak on redefining success, which is a talk that I give as a musical keynote to discuss, I think sometimes we have all these material markers, especially in the Western world, to define if we are successful or not. And I think it's really about that path of finding purpose and coming into alignment with who you really are inside, and coming to a place of love and feeling fulfilled in life, and allowing those things to be a part of our definition of success in moving forward, because I think we need a lot of change in our world, and it really starts with each and every one of us having that conversation inside.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with The Real Sun, just head on over to the SelfConfidence.com and search for Sun's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And I really just want to thank Sun for taking the time to share her story and her journey. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheena.
No problem. And to our listeners out there, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of the Tao of Self-Confidence. Subscribe to the Tao of Self-Confidence on iTunes and Stitcher to hear more stories of amazing women finding their inner journey to self-confidence.